Hello, this is Mr. Mike for the Mechanicsburg Learning Center with another edition of Mr. Mike's Dino-A-Day. This is episode number 79. 79 days in a row. We've been talking to you about a different, exotic, extremely cool ancient animal. Could be a dinosaur, could be a pterosaur, could be an ancient mammal, but nonetheless, all interesting in one form or another. Today's animal, no exception, is called Olorotitan. Olorotitan. Now, the moment you hear Titan, usually you have to think of something big, and that would be the case with this. It's not huge, but it's a good-sized animal, and for the type of animal that it is, it was a pretty decent size. Now, its size estimates have gone anywhere from 26 feet, which is almost the length of a stegosaurus, to the whole way up to about 39 feet, which is you're approaching the length of T-Rex. So it's a good size, but there's a wide discrepancy in terms of how large it was, and that's because we're not quite sure if what we have is a subadult specimen or is it fully grown. So there's been a little bit of discrepancy. Olorotitan was herbivorous. It was a quadrupedal animal that could also go bipedal, so it would go up on its hind legs. Now, it looked a lot like one of my all-time favorite dinosaurs, the Parasaurolophus, or Paralophosaurus, as some people pronounce it. And this is that animal. I'll show you now. Some of you may already know what it looks like. It's a herbivorous duckbill. It has a really cool crest. Okay, that is Parasaurolophus, one of my top 5 all-time favorite dinosaurs. Don't know why, I just love it. You can just tell by looking at it. Big belly, smaller head, really cool crest. Not much to speak of in terms of its teeth. So it had grinding teeth, so it was definitely herbivorous. So all these kind of animals had different kinds of crests. Here is a look at Corythosaurus with a rounded crest, or Lambeosaurus. They look very similar. Very similar when you compare it to Parasaurolophus. Okay, looks like the same darn thing except for the crest. Look at the faces. And then you have another animal that has a crest, different kind of crest. This is not an herbivore. This is a carnivore. This is Cryolophosaurus, and I'll put the animal really close to you so you can get a look at that crest. Now, the crest is interesting on Cryolophosaurus because it kind of points backward, and this was, of course, the dinosaur because it looked like a little hairstyle called the pompadour up there. So that's Cryolophosaurus. So all these crests are typically not necessarily functional in terms of what they did for the animal, but they probably were used a certain way. Oh, by the way, here's another cool crest. This one has 2 crests. So this one is Dilophosaurus. You can see the 2 crests there. Di means 2, Lopho means crest, Saurus means lizard, so it's 2-crested lizard. So all these crests had some sort of function. Most of them were not for what we used to think they were for. Most of the time, in the old days we thought, well, these animals used to use them and smash into each other, but they were much too fragile for that. Most of them were hollow. Okay, these are definitely hollow, and we think that the animal would blow air through them and create a noise to signal to the other animals in its herd. Not sure that Dilophosaurus did that because it wasn't really set up that way, and it wasn't strong enough to butt heads with other Dilophosauruses. So we know that the other function of these crests were to make it identifiable to the rest of its family. So and think about this. You come into a field and you're a dinosaur and you look out and there's all these different dinosaurs. Some are predators and some are docile, and they're herbivorous and plant eaters, and you want to make sure that you move towards your family and don't get caught up and go to the wrong family and get attacked. So it was very useful. That's why we think some were quite colorful. So that's the case with Olorotitan. Its crest is incredible. It's very interestingly shaped, and was not aware of the animal until I started doing research, and I started looking at the letter O and found Olorotitan. And the shape of the crest on the back of its head, they say it was hatchet-like. So now you have to imagine an animal that looks like this, but instead of having this long crest, it had something that came out and sort of flared out at the end and then had a sharp end to it. So it might be a little bit easier to envision it on this animal, where it came up and then it looked like the back of a hatchet, like you could take its head and go and chop wood. So it was very interestingly shaped. And again, we think it was uniquely shaped like that, so the other members of its herd could identify it. Olorotitan was discovered in Russia, and it was a near complete specimen. This made it very unique. Russia is not known for finding a lot of dinosaurs to begin with, and this was a near complete specimen, so it was very exciting. And the fact that it was this particular kind of animal related to the Parasaurolophus, Corythosaurus, Hypacrosaurus, it was one of the most complete of those kind of dinosaurs found outside North America. So it's just a very exciting find. Discovered and unearthed between 1999 and 2001, and then described in 2003 by 3 Russians, one named Pascal Godofroy, and Yuri Bolotsky, and Vladimir Alefanov. So those 3 gentlemen named and described the animal and its name. Here's the fun part. Olorotitan means Titanic swan. Imagine that. Some giant dinosaur named after a swan. Why was it named after a swan? Well, it has to do with the number of vertebrae in its neck. Most of these type of hadrosaurs, these duck-billed animals, had around, the maximum number of vertebrae in its neck was about 15. Some had less, and 15 was the most. This particular one had 18, 3 extra vertebrae, so it had a long neck. And they started saying, well, it's swan-like, because most animals like that have kind of a little bit of an S shape to them. In other words, it would come up here, curve a little, and then curve back, kind of into an S shape. And since it was big and had a long neck, it reminded the scientists of a swan. So there it got its name. There has only been 1 specimen found. So luckily it was quite complete, so we know pretty much what it looked like. And it had this fascinating hatchet-like appendage sticking out of the top of its head. That was the genus name, Olorotitan. Its species name is Arharensis. Ensis, whenever you hear ensis at the name of the species name, that's referring to a location. And that was named after the Arhara County area in Russia where it was found. So they named it where it was found. The tail itself, it's better to show you on this model. This, we used to show them like this a lot, where its tail, in the old days were kind of dragging behind it, or it held it down. But these beasts are much more horizontal, and this particular model shows a very straight tail. And we think that Olorotitan had a very stiff, not very flexible tail. And what could be injuries to the tail, which may have limited its flexibility, like if you hurt your ankle, maybe your ankle wouldn't move as freely, but they refer to that as a pathology. And because there were several of them, they said, well, maybe it injured itself, maybe there was an infection, and therefore the poor animal couldn't move its tail very much. However, they were so equidistant from each other, they were so equally spaced that it would be hard for an animal to hurt itself here, here, here at an equal distance. They would happen in more just not so, they wouldn't be lined up like they were. So that's still being figured out as to why it had such a stiff tail. But the other interesting thing about this animal is that it was one of the last dinosaurs, let's say one of the last non-avian, meaning they don't fly like birds do today, non-avian dinosaurs to exist on Earth. So it went extinct right about the time we know that the giant 6 to 10 foot meteor came crashing into the Earth. So it is one of the last dinosaurs that the Earth had ever seen in terms of the big dinosaurs. We know birds are dinosaurs and they're still around. So let's read you the story of Olorotitan for episode 79, brought to you by the Mechanicsburg Learning Center. It's always fun to write these, and frankly, we've been doing this for 79 episodes, and it's kind of amazing that there are so many dinosaurs for us to talk about, and it's an awful lot of fun to bring them to you, and I hope you're enjoying them. So thank you for watching them live on Facebook. We're going to see if this 7 p.m. time works. We may shift it. We'll see how the weeks progress as we come out of quarantine. But right now we're going to go ahead and try to do it again tomorrow, 7 p.m. And thank you for watching them live. Thank you for sharing them on Facebook. And also thank you for liking the videos on YouTube and subscribing. Olorotitan arharensis by Mr. Mike. For dinosaurs, you have to wonder how they spent their days. Without TVs or game consoles, they'd sleep a lot and graze. Now, if you were carnivorous, you'd have to hunt for prey. Perhaps you'd be a scavenger and search for some buffet. If you yourself were dino-like, you'd have to make a choice. When calling other dinos, would you use your outside voice? Or would you gain attention by displaying your head crest? Perhaps you would experiment to find which way worked best. The beast Olorotitan had a head crest that was cool, and it would stand out from the other crests at Dino School. Some crests were long and narrow, some were short, and some were tall, and some had no crest at all. And all these crests were meant to help identify the herd. This helped them recognize their kin so no mistakes occurred. The crest Olorotitan had was noteworthy indeed. It's hatchet-shaped, which clearly made them one distinguished breed. As for its neck, it was a bit extended for its type. 3 extra vertebrae would make for one extreme windpipe. The neck Olorotitan was noticeably long. That's why its genus name, it translates to Titanic swan. I think that if I had a hatchet crest upon my head, I'd want it to be colorful with blue and green and red, and if I had to signal to my friends, I'd simply turn and nod my head and signal there's a need for some concern. And this is how I think that dinosaurs would spend their time, communicating back and forth from dawn to their bedtime. Each species was equipped to get along as best they could with all the other animals that roamed their neighborhood. The Olorotitan related to all hadrosaurs, the Corythosaurus, the Parasaurolophus, or the Paralorosaurus. And the thing that makes it unique, very long neck, 3 extra vertebrae, and a hatchet-shaped crest. So this is a species very interesting to me and hopefully interesting to you. Thank you for watching. Do this every day live on Facebook. Time to be determined. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for watching the next video. This is Mr. Mike from the Mechanicsburg Learning Center with Mr. Mike's Dino-A-Day, and we will do it again live tomorrow. Have a good one.